What's up, YouTube? I'm Brett.
I'm Lance.
This is Rants or Us. As always, guys, if y'all enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave that comment down below. We're on the road to 1,000, and we hope you guys can help us get there. Alright, so, why did Voldemort not recruit the Weasleys? What do you think, Lance?
Because he's dumb.
Agreed. Video over. Actually, to be honest with you, it's very simple what you said there, but it's really the truth. He's dumb because if he would have won easily.
Yeah.
Why?
I agree
It was
with that.
because of his beliefs. Do you think? He just J.K. Rowling didn't think about that? Do you think that? She didn't want the Weasleys to appear as villains in any form or fashion. I don't think.
Yeah, but I feel like it would have made it more interesting if, let's say, Ron was a villain, or not even to make them villains, but just to use them to trap Harry, like he did with Sirius Black in the Ministry of Magic.
Yeah. Look how well it look. If it worked that well with Sirius Black, imagine what it would have worked with Ron Weasley or any of those Weasleys.
Jenny was the love of his life, like whatever. I get that they were like 17, but at that point, that was the love of his life. How would that not have worked?
And even before that, even in the Chamber of Secrets, before he even fell in love with her, he still looked at her as a little sister. And so you could have still have goaded him into a trap by simply having her. To be honest with you, that was kind of what happened in that book to begin with, is because she was used basically, and it worked against both Harry and Ron in that way.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, I feel like you could have used it. The whole Nagini attacking Mr. Weasley. Those things. All of these little things made Harry uncomfortable. It made him, it took him off his game and made him do rash things. And if you would have, especially later on when he fell in love with Jenny,
that's what I was saying. Like,
put fake
towards
memories
the
in
end is what I was thinking. Like, towards the end when they're already together and Voldemort can get in his head just as easily as Harry was getting into his head. Why not use that? It was stupid not to.
And there's one other thing is, and we were talking about it even off screen, is like Ron in the movies, it seemed like they only focused on him being jealous of Harry because of the Hermione thing, but actually it was a lot more to it than that. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, loads more. He felt like his mom cared more about Harry Potter than she even did him. Mm-hmm. His sister was in love with Harry Potter. There was a lot of things that caused Ron to have those animosities, and Harry didn't make it easy for Ron either.
It seemed like Harry fit in too well in the family to a certain extent. I think at first,
Yeah, and I can understand it from both sides there. I can understand Harry Potter wanting that because he grew up without it. Mm-hmm. But you got to understand Ron's point of view too. He's the youngest out of like 8 kids, and he kind of was always, well, not the youngest, Jenny's younger, but he was the youngest boy for sure. And so he was always kind of casted to the side.
Yeah. He was known as the boy that was friends with Harry Potter. That was it.
Yeah.
He wasn't a prefect. He didn't do anything.
Or head boy, or none of that. Yeah.
You could even say the twins, to a certain extent, had a better look in the family's eyes, simply because they had potential. They would get into intricate, plots of
yeah, and I even feel like they were closer with Harry than they were with Ron because of the Quidditch connection.
Yeah.
And then when Ron finally gets into Quidditch, it's he made the team because his best friend's the captain.
Basically. And
So he could never break away from that. So I understood like how he felt there, but I absolutely think Voldemort should have used people closer to Harry, and I didn't understand why he didn't even go. He didn't even like attempt to go after the Dursleys. I mean, come on. Maybe Harry probably wouldn't have went to the lengths to protect the Dursleys that he would have for the Weasleys. But there was no even an attempt there, and that was dumb. But I felt like anybody in the Weasley family would have been a good way to lure Harry into a trap. And I don't know if J.K. Rowling just didn't do it, or if Voldemort wouldn't have done that because the Weasleys were considered basically like a traitor to their people.
Yeah, they
were because they were good with Muggles. So
yeah, did Voldemort think that maybe the Death Eaters wouldn't have accepted him? Does he believe that maybe that would have lost his army to a certain extent, or his followers? Because
I think maybe he might would have been afraid that the followers would look at him differently for being okay with Muggle sympathizers. Let's put it that way.
Basically. But you don't think that they would have understood that, hey, he's using them towards a mean...
Honestly, I don't think it would matter, because even if he'd just been like, hey, we're doing this because I said so, they would all been like, okay, yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, I feel
that,
I feel like,
I think in that aspect, I feel like it would have been more just his personal beliefs there. But go ahead.
No, I actually agree with you 100% on that one. I feel like there's some villains in the world of these fantasy novels and shows that we watch that have this grand following, and they have this specific agenda, and that maybe their followers would revolt if they found out something a little bit different about that person, or if they tried to use people that were their enemies in certain ways. But I feel like Voldemort had such a firm control over that situation that I feel like he could have done it where, like, somebody like Grindelwald would not have been able to have done something like that. I feel like. So I mean,
but at the same time, I know that's not what this video is about, but Grindelwald's a much better villain than Voldemort.
To be honest with you, yeah, he actually is.
I think Grindelwald is in a worse story than Voldemort, but I think Grindelwald's the better villain. But
Grindelwald,
and I don't think Grindelwald would have hesitated to use the Weasleys if Harry Potter had been his enemy.
Oh, I think he would have definitely used them, because even in
That's what I'm saying.
Beast, he's going to be using Dumbledore affection. Maybe a brother, maybe something against Dumbledore. He's using something close to Dumbledore to get his way in a lot of ways, to get the better hand. Where I feel like Voldemort, maybe there's a certain extent that maybe Voldemort's own agenda or own belief system maybe got in the way of that, because he was in Harry's mind. He clearly knew that if there was some way that he could get Ron to maybe his side, or something to see something a little different, or any of those Weasleys, he could have used Ginny. He could have kidnapped Ginny and made Ron turn on Harry, or something along those lines. And I think that would have been really a more interesting plot to it.
Or even not really kidnapped her to make Ron turn on Harry. It could not even have nothing to do with Ron turning on Harry, but he could always just plant a vision in Harry's mind of him torturing Ginny, like he did when he put that vision of him torturing Sirius Black, and just get Harry Potter to come to where he wants him. He did it once before, it worked.
Not even that.
Why not?
All he had to do that, even if he couldn't get Harry Potter, he would have got Ron Weasley and all those Weasleys to come to
He
her
could have
aid,
still
and
alienated
then
Harry
he
Potter
could,
to where
and
he
then
was
he could have
alone
got
in
Harry
this
Potter back.
fight.
Do what?
Yeah, he could have at least alienated Harry Potter to where he was alone in this fight.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely. I think that would actually. But I mean, there's so many little things like that. I feel like, you know, I don't want to say Voldemort didn't think it, because I think, to be honest with you, I think J.K. Rowling was very weary of making the Weasleys be anything but this fun family. I
Yeah,
feel like she didn't want to go down that road with
you know,
them. I was really
and I
shocked.
think
To be honest with you, it's shocking that she allowed, one of the twins to die. And she was like, either that or it was going to be Mr. Weasley. I kind of feel like that was shocking that she even did that. Because overall, she wanted it to be like a fun environment. Everything with the Weasleys. At least in my eyes, it was that way. But I just feel like if you could have goaded the Weasleys to have done something stupid, killed one of them, caused Harry to go mad with rage, and then let him fall into a trap that way too. There's so many little things that you could have
yeah,
done that he didn't do, unfortunately. I'm just the way I just look at it is like, if that to me, and I know we've talked about it in past videos, Ron would have been a great Death Eater in that
I've
regard.
said that so many times. I think it would have been there would have been a big shock factor there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, but I think in the long run, I think if fans would really think about it, they would be like, that would have made things really interesting. Like,
Really would have. And you know what? It might would have separated the trio. And see, let's face it, Hermione and even Ron to a certain extent was the big reason why Harry succeeded. So all you needed to do was just plant something in there to separate Ron.
yeah, I
And if
feel
you would have
like,
separated Ron, you could have separated Hermione from Harry too.
without either one of those, Harry was screwed.
He
You know,
really was. Like it the book, man, I mean, he might have had his name on the book, but the truth is there's no way he could have done it without Ron or Hermione. Especially
or
Hermione.
even Neville.
Yeah, even Neville. Yeah. Especially Neville at the very end. Neville actually turned out to be the most
Yeah.
important person.
So
But I'm like, there is so many little things that they should have done, or I think would have been a better, more compelling storyline. If you wanted to go
now,
down the
see,
Genie road with him, do what?
if they could have had it to where Ron did go to the dark side,
Mm-hmm.
and he tried to kill Harry to impress Voldemort, and Jenny stepped in front of the curse.
Been like a kind of like a repeat of Grindelwald and Dumbledore.
To an extent, yeah,
That would have.
something like that.
How
Or
fitting would
just
that have
not,
been?
or if even if you take Ron out of the mix and just killed Jenny, and it did make Harry spiral into where he becomes a Dark Lord instead of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Now, if it was George Lucas instead of J.K. Rowling, that would have happened. But I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree with you on that one. But I mean, you know what? That would have been a really interesting way, because if you're playing chess, it's either you
I
want to
think
either
that
take out
I
your
think that
opponent.
if this didn't start out as juvenile fiction, it probably would have went that way.
Yeah.
But because it started out as kind of a child's thing, they didn't want any. They wanted Harry Potter to have a happy ending.
Yeah. Yeah, I
You
think
know.
that was what it always was going to be. I feel like she didn't realize the success of it and the appeal to it with audiences outside the age group that she
That she
initially
was
wrote it
originally
for.
writing it for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know what? To be honest with you, and I know people has never wrote books of anything. They might think that's the easiest thing, but that's actually a really hard thing to do. Is to decide what group you want to focus your book on, because there's some things where you'll have all these different ideas, and then you've got to compose it into what would work for that specific group that I want to appeal to. And some of those ideas
Yeah.
don't. And then you got to work. Do you want to discard those ideas, or do you want to somehow make them fit into it. And that she did a really excellent job of making those books follow how the age of the readers that they were. If you started off reading those books when you were 8, then by the time you were about 14, 15, you still found something interesting with the.
They definitely grew with you. I started reading them very young, and I read them all through school. And I felt like so towards the end of it all, you do feel like you kind of grew up with these characters.
Yeah, I
and that was something I always enjoyed about it. So I think she did a really good job within that way.
But I'm just like, the way I just look at it when it comes to the Weasley, especially Ron, if you could have, the best way to have taken Harry Potter out of the game was to make him do something that was so reprehensible to him that he would never want to pick up a wand again, or either he would come at you for revenge and then you could do something with him in that regard. And I feel like the Weasleys would have been the best way for him to have done something.
I think that going after me personally, I think going after Jenny would have been the best way to accomplish that.
Definitely. But I mean, it seemed like that's what they were setting up in when she found the Chamber of Secrets, and then after that, it's like that was completely and totally done and over with. And I'm like, they should have maybe expanded on that a little bit more, or she.
I feel like they got away from that just to all of a sudden come back to it. Like it was, they kind of set up the whole he's gonna fall in love with Jenny thing, at least in my mind. And then all of a sudden they didn't talk about it no more for like 4 books. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he was in love with her. So I felt like that was a little bit kind of out of the blue type thing. You could have set that up a lot better.
I feel like you could have done it either way. I feel like I didn't personally see it coming. To be honest with you, I knew it was coming because I had already watched the movies when I got into it. You got me into Harry Potter a lot later in life. But if I was a little kid, I don't know how I would have, if I would have saw it coming, if I wouldn't have seen it coming. But
I was young when I read it, and I expected it.
Yeah, see, I thought he was always going to be the little sister. Because that was how, it's like you said, they kind of talked about her, but it seemed like in the middle of those books, she was just kind of like a really distant side character in a lot of ways. And then they brought her back full.
So much so, I feel like she could have been a really strong character if she was in it more. Like, I liked her character.
Yeah.
We didn't see enough of her through the books or the movies,
But she would have, there's a question of whether or not she would have overshadowed Ron in the books. And I think that's a very good point to make in that regard, because she probably would have in a lot of ways. Because she had a lot of similar characteristics as what even...
And she might would have... The problem is she might would have outshined, maybe not like, knowledge-wise, but I think as a character, she might would have outshined Hermione. Like, people might would have been more into her character than Hermione, so...
Because what is the difference between her and Hermione? Both are headstrong. Both are independent.
The only thing is, I would say Hermione's got more book smarts.
Yeah, but she was smart too.
Yeah, but not as smart as Hermione.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you on that, but she also had more physical characteristics, capabilities than what Hermione did. She was better in Quidditch. She was just a better
Hermione hated
athlete.
flying.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if you wanted, you might have said, well, Ginny's not as smart as what Hermione is.
I don't think Hermione would have fell for the whole diary thing. I feel like Hermione was too smart for that one.
But you got to look at the age range.
Well, they're only a year apart. So I'm saying that first year at Hogwarts, Hermione wouldn't have fell for that then.
I kind of would agree with you on that one a little bit because
So
you are right. She was a little bit immature.
or
You know,
gullible for sure.
yeah, I know when I first read these books and I was looking at Jeannie and I was like, they made her at the first of it appear like she was a lot younger. And then when he started falling in love with her, I was like, whoa, wait a second here. Like, that's a little weird, dude. And then I was like, oh, she's only like a year, 2 years apart from them. And I was like,
She's a year
okay, that makes a
younger.
lot more sense. Yeah. I'm like, that makes a lot more sense then. But I tell you, the way she portrayed him, I wonder if J.K.
See,
Rowling.
it was clear. The age gap between them was much clearer in the books than in the movie. In the movie, she
Definitely.
looks very
She
yeah,
looks
yeah,
incredibly
and I
young.
could see that. But
But
with the books, I never thought twice about it because it was the very next year Jenny comes to school, so I knew there was only a year gap there. So
yeah, but see, to me, it's like the way that they portrayed her in the earlier books compared to the later books. They wanted the big sister, the little sister aspect with her and Harry Potter in the beginning
I
books. I
think the
wonder
only
if
reason
J.K.
they
Rowling.
did that I think the only reason they did that was to try to throw people off about what was really going to happen.
That could
I
very
think
well
they
been.
wanted. I think they wanted people to think that Harry was going to end up with Hermione. I never thought that.
I think they should have, to be honest with you. I actually think they were a better match than her and Ron. What did her and Ron have in
Okay,
common?
that's where me and you disagree a lot. But
I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did. I'm not quite. I'm not. I won't say that I never was a big Harry Potter Genie fan though. Simply because I'm like, did he just end up with them to make it just another connection with the Weasleys? That's the way it felt. So I mean, I
I
just
don't
think
think that was it. That's not how it felt with me. But I felt like she was. I feel like J.K. Rowling was bad about building relationships. Period.
no, I think I would agree with you on that one. She's horrible at it. One of the worst authors at it I've ever seen. I mean, it's like I feel like a kid could have wrote a better
At
love
that at
triangle
that
than that.
at that particular subject. Now, overall, I do not think she's a bad author by no
No, I
means,
think
but I
she's a great
think she
author.
just struggled with that.
But I just think that you have the whole using Genie, in the Chamber of Secrets thing, and then going away from it, and then the whole Nagini, Mr. Weasley aspect to it. There's a lot of little things, and then the jealousy that Ron kind of felt towards Harry Potter. I feel
Yeah,
like
so
there
I
was
mean,
good
to an
ways that you could
extent
have
though,
used the
I would
Weasleys
almost
against him.
say he did use the Weasleys to get to Harry Potter, but he just stopped doing it. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
and
he
I felt
used Ginny to get to Harry Potter in the Chamber of Secrets. Then he turned around and used Mr. Weasley to get at Harry Potter in Order of the Phoenix.
we
And he used Sirius Black to get at Harry Potter. So he knew he could use these people to get to Harry Potter if he really wanted to. He just was like, no, I think I'm gonna go take over this high school now.
Yeah, even yeah, I know that was the problem I always had with that. But hey, Mister Weasley's position even could have been beneficial. The intel he could have got, all these little things. All he had to do was use either Ron, Ginny, or somebody against Mister and Mrs. Weasley, and you could have, even the threat would have been enough. Maybe you could have got intel. You could have got anyway. There's a lot of different ways that Voldemort could have used them in any direction he wanted to. Whether it was to take Harry Potter off the board completely, or whether it was to get information off the Ministry of Magic, or even information out of Harry Potter. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that the Weasleys could have been used in a more sophisticated way to bring down Harry Potter. I feel. in a lot of ways. But I mean, I think that's about it for me. But I mean, that is,
Yeah,
I feel
that's all I
like,
got. I thought it was. I've always thought it was kind of dumb for Voldemort not to get his hooks into somebody close to Harry to either, like you said, take Harry completely off the board or to throw him off his game.
yeah, I
Let
mean,
him make mistakes that I need him to make.
you know
But that's all I can. That's all I can really think about. I mean,
that you brought up about if there would have been a situation where that Ron and Harry were fighting, and then Ginny or Hermione steps in, and one of them gets shot with something, that would have been a full circle. I feel like
yeah,
in this storyline, that would have paralleled and really resembled the whole Dumbledore Grindelwald situation with Voldemort Harry, and I think that would have been great. And I agree with you. If this was George Lucas doing it, you betcha that's the way it would have ended. But because it's J.K. Rowling, she went a different route. I'm not going to say I necessarily agree with her route. I understand there's a certain, I mean, she wanted to do something unique, different, but at the same time, familiarity and kind of these, full circle things kind of does work in a lot of ways. It really hits home with a lot of audiences, and I think that could have been a really good way for this story to have gone. But again, me personally, I just feel like she didn't want to use the Weasleys in that kind of way at all. I don't even think that was an option for J.K. Rowling, to be honest with you.
I don't think so either. I agree with you on that. I think for the most part, we agree that it should have happened, but we know why it didn't. Like,
Yeah. But as always, guys, let us know what y'all think. Do you think that Voldemort should have used the Weasleys? And if you do, how? Should he have used Ron? Should he have used Ginny? Should he have used Mr. and Mrs. Weasley? Whether it be for intel or to break up, the whole gang.
Fred, George,
Yeah, Fred, George, any of them. I mean, with all the little things that they did,
and
Fred,
I
George, and
thought they
Mischief, they
were.
could use a lot of
Now,
Blackmail.
I do want to say this. This wouldn't have. I don't think it would have affected Harry Potter in the same way. But I did think that she was building up to use Percy as Percy becoming a Death Eater there for a little while. Is how it looked.
I could have seen how that would have worked. I think that would
Because
have
he was always going against his family for the minister, and the minister was kind of blind to all this. I thought that's what she was gonna do with Percy, and
like
that would. I don't think fans would have had a problem if Percy had become that. But
I don't think it would have. Yeah, I don't think that would have really hit home.
it wouldn't, like I said, it wouldn't have had the impact. So,
no.
But I did think they were going to do that. I just wanted to add that in because we are talking about Voldemort recruiting the Weasleys or using the Weasleys in some way. So I did want to add that. But other than that, I think we touched everything.
Fans might not have been a huge fan of Percy, but they could have used Percy being a part of that as a means to get to the other Weasleys. So I mean that could have worked that way.
I mean, even if you didn't like Percy, you would have saw that as the biggest type of betrayal you could imagine anyway.
Yeah, so. I mean, so yeah, I think that maybe would have hit home a little bit, and that is another option she could have gone. But hey, this is all us just coming up with ideas of a great book. How all the different directions it could have gone. I think overall J.K. Rowling did a fabulous job. But it's always fun to speculate, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, she definitely did a great job. I just, we like to talk about things that people want to talk about. I mean,
but it's always, guys, let us know what y'all think down below. And thanks for watching. Y'all take care.